Hi everybody, good afternoon. I've just noticed on the comments some of you were saying you're not feeling very well. I can't see back that far, but if you're not feeling very well today, I hope you feel better soon, and I hope an afternoon of crafty goodness on TV will cheer you up a little bit. So hi, who have we got? We've got Tracy, Amanda, Susan, Hazel, Kerry I saw earlier, Jan, Margaret. Hi to anyone else. Hi Bernie. And anyone else I might have missed. So I'm not on the gin in a tin. It is apple fizz, which is from Pret. So it's just like, I don't know, apple ties or something. But I've just done a recording for Sunday and I nipped out for a quick swig. But it does look like I've hit the bottle, doesn't it? So how is everybody? I've just noticed as well some people were saying they're getting their deliveries from what came from Create and Craft as well. So I hope you have fun with that. And what else have you got this afternoon? You've got Tony on Create and Craft at 2:15 and you've got Carly on, is it Saturday for iMarla? So very, very exciting, fun-packed, crafty few days for you. So today I want to, we talked a little bit last week about different shapes and sized cards, and I think that one that gets neglected loads is the DL. So lots of people are calling them slimline cards now, if you notice. I don't know whether that's an American thing or I'm just seeing that popped up. And if you saw Leanne's card of the day today, she's done a slimline one as well. I think got a question for Jan. Will you be getting the Rain perfume bottle back in stock? Yes, it's completely gone at the moment. I'm hoping to get that back in stock, so leave it with me, and if there's any updates on that, I will post them on social media as soon as possible. So yeah, loads of you saying you love DL cards. I must admit they're not something that I've done huge amounts of, but I like to push myself out my comfort zone a little bit. I very often default to 5x7s, so we did a square one last week and we did a huge 7x10. So I'm doing a DL card today and Sunday, different cards, and I'm going to show you some alcohol marker techniques today, and it's again something that I've done on a video before, but lots of you have said to me, can you do it live, because I can see in real time and you can talk me through it basically. So let me show you the card that inspired it. Hi Adele, hi Marilyn, Enid, Sean. Lots of you coming in now. So do any of you remember this stamp which is called our modern floral stamp? And I did this kind of stippling effect with alcohol markers. And I did this quite a while ago, and yeah, lots of you said you liked the look that it had this kind of dotty, stippled effect, and you liked the fact that it almost looked like printed, but you didn't really have the confidence. So I did a recorded video, but a lot of you want to see it live as well. Lisa's saying, what size is the DL? So a DL is, let me get an exact something to measure on for you. Basically, it's like a third of an A4. You know, like if you letter to go in a standard envelope and you would fold your A4 letter into thirds. So that panel is a third of an A4 there. So 1/2 of that. So let's measure it as well though on this trimmer. So it's just under 4 inches by, I think that's going to be 8, isn't it? I haven't got that. Oh, is the extra bit under there? Can we find it? No. I think it'll be just under 4 by just under 8 or whatever. That will be A5 in width, if that makes sense. But oh, there we go. Jan, 4 by 8. Yeah, I thought it was. Yes, pointillism as well, Susan. Lots of people call it that. I mean, mine is very loose. In fact, I've got a couple of stamps where I've used a little bit of that for detail, and that's great when you're doing fine work. But I actually use the brush end for this kind of size here. So ahead of time I just cut a black matte and layer panel, and I'm going to have it this way up. shall we? Just thinking I've done the other one for Sunday that way up. Yes, let's do it that way. But you could do it either, couldn't you? And I've got some very, very smooth cardstock here for using alcohol markers. So just to very quickly, sorry if you know this already, but lots of you always ask, particularly if you're new to card making or alcohol markers. So what you want is a very, very smooth cardstock. The reason for that is you don't want the paper to suck out to excess of your ink from your pens, otherwise it uses them up too quickly, and it gives a really, really nice clean, crisp finish as well. And then when you're stamping, you want to use a different ink than you do when you're doing water-based colouring. So I use Memento. There are a couple of other brands out there that you can use with alcohol markers, but it doesn't smudge with the Memento. And I think we've mentioned before that Adele, was it, had shared a table about which ink pads to use with which pens, whether they're alcohol-based, water-based, that kind of thing. So that's on the group. I think I saved it as a photo, but it's on the Bruchettes Facebook group if you need it. I'm sure somebody will share it again. I try and do every now and then the alcohol stuff because it does come up and people, you know, lots of you will have bought Tony's Gossip pens. So for the design I'm going to colour in, I'm going to use one of the perfumes and I'm going to use the floral element of it just on its own. So I'm going to have it kind of coming off the edge of the page a little bit. And I'm stamping in grey rather than black because you can still see it, but it's going to get lost a little bit under the colouring. Not completely, only because I still need you to be able to see it on the camera. But you know, it won't be as bold. So I'm just going to put it slightly off, coming off the page there. Bernie says I'm rubbish at colouring in general. I'm sure you're not, but a lot of it is just practice, isn't it? Watching other people see what they do and then having a go and keep going, not giving up until you get it to look reasonably as you like it. So this colour is grey flannel in the Memento. So that's just given a kind of light grey look. So it's not too bold, and we're going to do some colouring within the flowers and get that lovely effect around the edge as well. Hopefully, got the pressure of kind of recreating that look now, haven't I? So let's just pop that aside for a second. So I'm going to just show you the technique before I do it anywhere near this piece of paper. I'm going to show you the couple of different ways I do stippling. So generally I use the brush nib end, and you can either go straight in with dots like that and vary the pressure. You'll notice the more pressure you put on, the larger the dot, and that gives it a nice look. And generally I'll kind of concentrate the dots near, say, the edge, if that was an edge of a petal or the edge of a leaf, and then start to come out a little bit more. Or you can do like I've done around the edge here, where I've done a very pale and I've gone in with flicks first. Then I've gone over with some dots. And then I've gone back in with more dots with a slightly darker colour. So we're going to use a bit of a combination of these two techniques, and you'll see with the colours that I use. And then what's handy as well is that on this one, because I stamped very pale, I lost a little bit of the centres. So I have got to hand as well a fine liner pen, or if you've got the black one of this, you could use the little fine nib. And then if there's any detail we want to pick up at the end, we can do that. So I've picked out some colours. I'll jot them on here as well as I use them. So I'm going to do around the edge first. They're not the exact blues, I don't think, that I've used on that original card, but we'll keep it out for reference anyway, because it's quite handy to see, even though it's a different image. So I've picked two blues here, a kind of greyish blue, and that one's just in case you want to use the same colours out of your stash. PB 144. Confetti paints, yes. And just they're taking longer than I thought to come back to get shipped over. But yes, they are on the way and they will be going back to TV in the big bundle and the individuals. So yes, I know loads of you have been asking for those. So those are the two blues I'm going to use. So I think I'm going to use this one first. It's slightly paler, and then go over with any extra dots. I think with that one, I can't remember which one's which now. Yeah, 144. So as I always say, move your artwork rather than your arm. So when I'm doing flicks, I want to be going in this direction. So as I'm going round, you'll notice me do this rather than moving my hand, and that gives you much more control. So I'm going all the way around the image, and can you see where it's more concentrated there because of slightly more pressure at the base, and then just really letting it. Don't worry about going over these bits, we can pick those back up. A lot of the kind of floral images that we've got in stamps of mine and Tony's, you could do this technique with. It almost gives it like a really lovely halo around it. So no dots yet. If you've got little areas like this, just go around with the tip, or you can swap to your bullet point nib if you need to. So if lots of you got alcohol markers, whether they're Tony's Gossip ones or other types of ones, I've got the Altenew as well, they're nice. I'm going in this bit with the bullet point nib. It's just a bit too tight right there. So take your time, but yeah, it gives it a nice shadow already, doesn't it? In fact, you could do this if you'd heat emboss that in the gold or say one of the other blues, and then just do this round it. It gives a great effect on its own. Anyone else up to anything exciting today? Work, washing, crafting? Spectrum Noir, somebody's saying. Amanda, you've got the Spectrum Noir ones. Oh, and lots of you tracking down that table. Yeah, it's really handy. I mean, it's not definitive, it's not, it's just been done by people who use different ones, so it's not set in stone. If you find something works better for you, go for it, but it very often is just about which ingredients that ink pad has, and it needs to be like the opposite of the ingredients in your pens. That makes sense. So, Pro Markers and Chameleons, Hazel, so you've got a couple of different ones. Yeah, I mean, some of them haven't got a brush nib, so you can do this with your bullet point if you've got pens. I don't think the Pro Markers have that, I'm not sure about the Spectrum Noir. You can do your flicks still with your bullet point. but they're obviously just going to be thinner, and you don't get that kind of gradient as much. And of course, when you do your dots, they're going to be smaller, but it's not to say you can't do it, it just might take you a bit more time. So I'm going to go in now with the same colour and just kind of blur this line a little bit where I flicked out from with some stippling. And I'm concentrating it. Do you remember I said I kind of concentrate it in one area? So that's near the petals, near the edge. And then as I come out, and it's just practice, just getting used to keeping your hand really, really loose. Not thinking too much about where you're putting things, just letting it flow. I know that sounds really easy, and I wish I could say you need to put a dot here and a dot there, but it's just not kind of one of those techniques. You just kind of have to go with the feel of it. What's the best colour ink pad for no line watercolouring? So watercolouring, I use 2. Sorry, just to answer that question of Denise's. I've only got one of them with me now. I use the Versafine Smoky Grey if I want it to still be there a little bit, but look more pencily than a black line. And then if I don't want it to show at all, I wonder if I've got a card behind me. No, but have a look on my YouTube, Denise, Claire Manning Craft. There's, I'm sure, a couple of no-line videos where I've used a Ranger ink called Malted Milk. I think it's by Jenny Bowen. But have a look on my YouTube as well. There's definitely some videos on there, and you'll see how pale it is. It's almost like a very pale cream, maybe even lighter than this. So for most colours, it kind of completely disappears. Or certainly unless you were really looking for it, you know. So nearly finished with the outline. Now I could go back in now with the darker blue. I'm going to hang on and I'm going to colour in my flowers first before adding some darker dots, because I kind of don't want to overdo the outline too much and end up spoiling it with overkill. What do they say? You can always add more, but it's difficult to take away, isn't it? So I'll keep my blues aside for now. And I want to do 2 different coloured flowers. So let's do a purple and a yellow. So I've got 3 purples. I don't know which I'm going to use yet. And 3 yellows. Let's have a look and decide. Sometimes you can use 3. Oh, May's saying yes, Malted Milk. That's the one, isn't it? If you've got a larger image, I'd say use 3, because this is reasonably small. I'm only going to use 2, but I just want to have a look which ones I want to use. I think they go quite nice together. Yeah, let's go with that. So the paler one first, and may as well decide on the yellows while I'm here. I know this is definitely a paler yellow. Yeah, that's that one. And I'll write down the colours in a second once I've chosen. That's quite deep. Let's go that slightly lighter one. So the yellows are Y35, and this is more of a cream, yeah, pale cream. This one's called YR142. I hope you can see that all right. And the purples are PB75. Yeah. And P145. So let's do the yellow first. So go in with the pale. So you won't need as many flicks here because the area isn't as big. It's a kind of sealed off area, if you like, where you've got a line, you're not going into just white space. So what I tend to do is just start at the base of a petal and just do maybe 4 or 5 and just work my way around the flower. Because this is a nice open flower, it's really easy. You're not having to kind of worry about changing direction with the petals. All you're doing is turning it. Add a little bit to these ones that are hiding from the edge. And then let's do some dots. So yeah, whoever was asking about the inks then, was it Denise? So yeah, you can see with the, I know this is alcohol, but you can see with the grey, you can still see it underneath, whereas that would be similar with a watercolour, but that multi-milk one that I was telling you about, you really do pretty much lose it, which is why it's difficult for me to use for lives like this, because you can't see where I'm colouring. So I'm adding quite a few stipple dots in the base of the petals and just slowly bringing them out. Exactly the same technique as we've done here. We're just coming out from the centre of the flower now instead of to the edge. Don't forget these little kind of looped up bits. And also don't forget when you're working with alcohol markers is that when you first put down your colour, it tends to be a little bit darker. And then you'll notice after a few seconds, once it starts to dry back, it goes paler. So that's the paler underneath. And then I'm going to go in with a little bit darker yellow. Again, mainly concentrated at the base of the petal, but a little bit further up as well. And just keep going until you feel happy with that petal and then move round to the next one. You don't have to worry about smudging so much with alcohol markers. I never find that I get it on my hands, or they dry pretty quick. Which is why you can move your paper around like this and not worry about smudging it all over the place. You can always add some extra little fine dots around the edge of a petal to distinguish it from the next one. Just almost, you know how you'd add shadow with your watercolours. Just gives a little bit of extra definition. And then some areas where it's not blended quite as well, I'm just going to go back in with that lighter. Just felt like there was a little bit too much white space on some of these petals. But sometimes it can help to, Nathan's just put the camera back for me there, so it can help to see it as a whole. So step back from your work sometimes. Okay, that will come alive a little bit more when we pop the middle back in. Let's move on to the purple one and the pale lavender first. Hi Tracy, how are you? You said you've been feeling a bit off colour again the last few days. Well, I hope it's not coming back for you. It's going to be a worrying time anyway over the winter now, isn't it, after all the announcements yesterday. So I hope everybody stays safe and as well as they can be. So same technique, look, I'm just flicking all the way round. This one's got more petals coming out the back. So I'm doing some smaller flicks just to make sure that's got some paler colour on there as well. And then in with the dots. I'm getting a little bit quicker now here for you. Now you know what the technique is. In fact, once you've done this a few times, it can be really, really quick. Once you've loosened up a little bit to have the confidence to just go for it. And if you really don't like it, just start again. I did this a few times before I got that result, so don't worry, it's not doesn't matter if you don't get it right first, third, 10th time, doesn't matter. Let's go in with some of the darker. You'll notice I purposely left a little bit more white space because, like I said, I did with the yellow, it's easier to go back in after and add some more of the paler colour if you want to. It'll still blend really nicely. So yeah, just a little bit back in with the paler one. Just fill up a little bit of that white space, but not too much. Okay, then the leaves. So I've got 2 greens, let's jot down those. B171 is my lighter that I'll start off with, and G56 are my 2 greens. Oh no, Adele, you're waiting for your Thirsty Bush goodies from Hermes. I've had a nightmare with them as well the last few days. I've been waiting for something. It's been sat with them since Sunday morning, and it still doesn't even say it's with the courier, it's at their sorting office. So annoying. Exactly the same technique, I'm just going from the base of the leaf out towards the side with the flicks. This just puts some base colour and leaves you some white space, and then go in with your dots. Don't forget, if you've got tiny little ones like this, you can always swap to your bullet nib. I'm lazy, so I just go in with it. Just don't press as hard. And let's go in with some darker green. This looks nice on the leaves as well if you just go tiny little dots up the side of one of the leaves. Gives like a little shadow effect. Okay, and then we've got a couple of bits to finish. We've got some little stalks here that the leaves come off with tiny little berries on. So I'm going to swap to the bullet nib for that. And, oh, no, that's still the brush nib. And I'm going to go down those little stalks with still dots rather than just a line, just so it ties in nicely. And then colour in those little berries on the end. It just gives a little bit of depth with that darker colour. And then let's add some of our fine liner pen. This one's a uni pen, or there's, oh, what's the one with the cream barrel? Tony uses them a lot. Oh, I can't remember the other brand, but there's loads of different ones out there. So I'm just going to go, I'm going to use a similar technique, just do little circles for the centre. So you could use a little Sharpie or your black Gossip marker with the bullet nibs if you haven't got a fine liner pen. But these are quite handy. I use them as well if you really have not stamped something properly and you've got a bit of a gap and you've moved your stamp so it's too difficult to correct with your Eureka or anything. You can always do an odd little line with a pen is handy. And then let's go back in with that dark, slightly different colour blue, because I feel like it just needs a bit of depth and change of colour there. So it's just a slightly different tone really, actually. It's not too much of a contrasting light and dark. It's just one's more grey blue and the other one's, this one's a slightly brighter blue. Although it still looks quite different than in real life than on the camera there. So I'm just adding some extra dots, no more flicks needed. Just coming out a little bit further than I did with the duller one. And you could even go in with a third colour, a light, medium and a dark if you wanted to. Uh-oh, who's on 7% battery? It's a horrible feeling, isn't it? A bit like when you're on your Sky as well. I've got like a 2 terabyte thing on my Sky and then we got to 100% the other day. I was like, oh my God, how many episodes of Keeping Up with the Kardashians or whatever are on there? Okay, I think I'm done for the design. What do you think? Let's put in a sentiment and then I'll mount it on the card and I think we're done then. So this one, I did a embossed sentiment. Don't think that's the light picking up that. Ah, there we go, a gold embossed. Just because I've spent most of the time on the colouring today, I'm just going to do a black sentiment on there. And because I'm not colouring, I can just go back to my VersaFine for the sentiment, which I just find is crisper. Let's use one from one of the other perfumes actually. Let's use this, thank you. Yes, it is mindful, Susan. Yeah, very much so. Something you can kind of lose yourself in a bit. So, you know, like I say, practice. You don't have to feel like it's you get it right the first time. But I think we're all going to be spending more time inside, aren't we, this winter? So, a good time to practice techniques, I think. Just trying to get that straight. Does that look straight? There we go, very, very simple. And I'm just going to pop that on a card now. Clean that off in a second. Might add a couple of sequins just to be, just to add something. Get that off. I've got to go and have my nails done tomorrow. Try and get some time before I open our shop because I had these done in Turkey nearly a month ago now. When I had them done as soon as I got there, and they've grown off dramatically. So this is why, can you see that's the back? If you haven't done much alcohol colouring before, this is why you should always use a panel to colour on and stamp on, not straight onto your card blank, because it leaks through card, even quite thick. I mean, this is 200 and something GSM, even a 300 GSM before I've had it pop through. So very, very quickly, just at the last, just a couple of sequins, and this might be like on my Sunday show, might be a sneaky peek of something to come if you like sequins and embellishments and things like that. So yeah, keep an eye on that. 1, 2, and I always do 5, 1, 2, 3, a 3 and a 2. Don't know why, I just think it looks good. Well, there's always that rule of odd things, isn't there, in art and design and stuff. But that's about as much as I know. I just know it, like I like aesthetically how 5 looks in a 3 and a 2. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed that technique. I think it's not quite as striking as that one, but I wonder if that's because this one is 3 flowers and you've got the pink as well. But hopefully that showed you the technique as well, if either you were struggling with it or if you haven't had a go yet and you wanted to see it done in real time. So have a great afternoon, everybody. Yeah, watch Tony at 2:15. I think it's 2:15, is it, Nathan? I think so. When I looked on the schedule this morning, it was. So yeah, enjoy your afternoon, and I'll be back on here on Sunday with a pre-recorded show that I've just done for you. And look out on the other social medias as well. Me and the Design Girls will be posting pretty much daily on there with loads and loads of ideas for you. All right then, take care, and I'll see you Sunday.